I was almost halfway this book here, but I was just reading it and I really want to learn this, and just reading it was not doing it. And I had this trip coming and I knew that, well, inside a plane there's not much that we can do, and I decided to start it over during that trip. I did that, and I also used a strategy I showed in a recent video. I was switching from the book to a note. I took many notes. There are many notes here, but this helped me. It was good, but I needed more space. So I'm back now, and I think I'm gonna look for an alternative here. I'm gonna move all of this to Scrintal, which is a place where I go when I need more freedom, because I can't write whatever I want in boxes all over the place and move these boxes all around. So let's do that. Let's move this to Scrintal and then try some ideas. What I like here is that I can simply write anything anywhere and move things around if I need to. There is no need to create a node or any specific structure. Now, one thing that I need to figure out before I move on is, why is the field, the psychology field, called cognitive psychology? And there is one of the main areas that the book pointed at with the same name, cognitive psychology. So I asked Gemini, I explained the situation, and this is what is here. This is the question I made. I just explained that the book uh, created this four distinct subfields, if I can call it that. And I would like to understand the difference. So it came up with this explanation here. And although I'm not sure if this is correct, because, well, this is new, all new to me. Not new. Let me pause here for a moment. So this is the first time I read a book like this explaining cognitive psychology, but I've been reading books about this topic that are related to this topic since forever. I love this topic. So this is one thing that I really always wanted to do, try to understand it as if I were studying it in, I don't know, in the school. So of course I'll double check this. I don't really trust AI to be always correct, and I do know people who are psychologists, so I'll double check this. But what I'm trying to show you is, how is this canvas helping me? And what I'm going to do now is add all this explanation below the ones I'm getting from the book. So I have this a way to compare them, or I don't know, to see them together. So, oh, by the way, if you don't know this, you can double click here anywhere to create a new text box. So let's do this, this, and let's keep doing it. And of course, I read that. I'm not just copying and pasting, that wouldn't work. This is me reading at home, and I started recording my screen when I had this idea to add a box to take note of a book. And it is a book about cognitive neuropsychology, so that's why I added a box below the neuropsychology box. By the way, if you're planning to subscribe to Scrintal, I have a gift for you, 30% off your first year using the discount code below. But this offer is only valid for the next 2 weeks. At this point, I still didn't know what to do with all this information I was absorbing, but you soon see that when things started becoming more clear, I started organizing this box, creating documents and merging them. But we are not there yet. This is me a few minutes later finding information that would help me check part of the information I got from Gemini.
the explanation is pretty good compared to what I'm reading in the book. So I'm going to try to do the same with the others, and I might not need to talk to a friend. Maybe just by rereading the book, I can compare this, and I'll probably come up with, I don't know, maybe a check mark here, a check box to make sure that this is okay.
This is my screen still being recorded that same day, and I would like to touch on some points here. First, I came up with this color scheme, everything from AI. I was painting orange, so I knew that came from AI. I also tried the checkbox idea. I ended up giving up on that, but I think I checked 2 or 3 definitions. But the important point here is that I started organizing things using converting some of those blocks into documents. I'll soon show you and talk more about this because even this here changed a lot during the next few days. But what I want to show you now before we start talking about the documents is another thing that I also did. We are now in a coffee shop, and this is me doing a terrible job recording with my phone. Jokes aside, you can now see many more boxes. I'm trying to put them next to each other because now I know how I'll create the documents and connect all these ideas. But again, as I learn, I'm still keeping them as text boxes. And I'm trying to uh, write the definitions with my own words to try to memorize them. We'll get to the boxes in just a second. But before that, there's another thing that I started doing that day, and that changed everything. I started copying some of the books, images, and bringing those images to the Scrintal board. All I have to do here is slide down from the top and tap the screenshot. Okay. Now let's go to the computer. Because I'm using the Supernote Cloud, we can go to the companion app on my Mac, screenshots. Here's the image. Go back, right click, export. Let's save this to the downloads folder. I'm using a Mac, so I'm going to open this using preview. And from here, I'm going to select the image and Command K to crop it, save it. And we can add this image, drag it to Scrintal, where I'm trying to make sense of this book. Man, that's that's great. It's such a game changer to be here reading and be able to look at the board and then zoom in and take a look at the image the author is mentioning to understand what the author is talking about. This has been such a great way to learn. This is how the board is looking like right now. Let me do this so you can see it better. Let's start with the color coding here. So green is for everything from the book. Orange, as you already know, is for AI information. I added blue. Blue is for books. So there's another book here. There's the book I'm reading and other books that are book suggestions. And I might create a color for researchers. So this is a person that is mentioned, a very important person mentioned in the book. I'm not sure yet. Oh, there is more AI here. And this is how this part here will become very soon, but I left it like this because I want to show you how it progresses from this to this. Before that, let's talk about tags. There are some tags here. There's AI here. There's another tag here, books. I try to add tags to information that I might need in the future. So if we go to docs here and tags, for example, I can filter by books, and from here I can see the book name. I copied this from Amazon, and here's a tag and in which board it is, the name of the file, but also the link to the book here, and I may add other links to this book in the future. But this is quick way to get information about the books uh, without going to the board. And you can do this for many other things. For example, I don't know, researchers, like I said, there is a note here. I also copied this from Wikipedia. Uh, there's a lot of links here that came with that copy and paste. Anyway, let's go back to the board here. There are also more images now. And here is what I'm doing, what I'm working on at the moment. So let me just put this aside for a second because this part of the book here started like this part of the board started like this. So let's talk about how uh, how I'm building this. All these boxes here, they started as documents because as my reading progressed, I start to make sense of the book. I start to understand and connect the dots. And when a person like Professor Neisser, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, is mentioned, I know that as the father of cognitive psychology, I may need this in the future. And as you already know, if we create a new board here, so boards, create a new board, for example, I can add this to the board. So as I build that board, let's go back to that board. As I build that board, I'm not only thinking about the book, learning the book, but how this boxes, this documents may be useful in the future. So, of course, books, I just showed you the tags, a person like Professor Neisser. And here on chapter 2, the authors started explaining that they would talk about the pillars of cognition on chapters 3, 4, 5, and 6. So I knew that I needed documents because I'm pretty sure if I keep studying this and learning about this topic, this document will be useful because this is attention and perception. So again, if I go to another board, I can add any information to this or any other board, or I can just take a look. Let's say I'm looking for attention and perception. I just want to learn, uh, read all I have about that topic. So I can even click here for more information or go to other links when this information start being connected to other uh, documents, other information on the board. So let's go back to our board. And that's why all this, they all started as documents. However, here comes the learning again. So when I started chapter 3, there is a lot of new information that I didn't know about. So what I started doing was something like this. First, you and you, because the author started explaining attention and perception. And then they began to talk about attention. So I started writing things here and I thought that I needed more space. So I kept moving that down like this. And we are almost where you saw in the beginning, the organization you saw in the beginning. And this is related to this. So as you can see, I can move things around. But now there's 3 other chapters, they have no relation with this information. I selected all of them and moved them down like this. Okay. Then I was, uh, I kept reading and I, they started explaining this bottom up and top down factors. And I kind of understood it, but it was not that clear. So I went back to Gemini and asked Gemini to explain in more simple words. And this is what I came up with, what it came up with. And then I started comparing this to the other information that is in the book, and I think it makes sense. So for now, it's here, it's marked, it's painted orange because I know that this is AI. And at some point, I have to decide what to do with this. For example, I'm pretty sure I'll be using the attention definition in the future, and for sure also the perception definition. But should I add the active and passive to this doc, create a single document? I still don't know. So this is again why I think this is so cool. I can keep things here indefinitely and try to make sense of what it is that how this information will be useful for me. And at the same time, I can always come back to this board to take a look at concepts that are mentioned again and again in the book. There's still a long way to go, but what I can tell you is that I've already crossed the point where I stopped reading the first time, and the feeling is completely different. Now I can understand the connections between everything I'm reading. And when I'm in doubt, I can go to the board, I can check a concept, and if I don't understand it at that moment, I can ask Gemini or look for that information somewhere else and bring that information to the board, check that information on the book. It's a completely different situation. I'm really happy with that. I'm feeling so much better now. I'm so confident to the point where I went to LinkedIn and I tagged the authors and asked them a question. I don't know if they will ever answer, but that made me feel so good. It's a sign that I'm really understanding what I'm reading. I'm learning something that I always wanted to learn. Anyway, that's it for this one. If you want to follow the progress, I'm more active on Mastodon and Blue Sky. You can follow me there. You'll find the links in the description below. If you like this one, I'd appreciate a thumbs up. And if you want to help even more, please consider supporting my work on Patreon or YouTube. You can also buy me a coffee. Thanks for watching. See you soon.